In the small, close-knit town of Millstone, Georgia, Pastor Daniel Reed was the kind of man people trusted without question. With his deep baritone voice, calm gray eyes, and a sermon style that blended wisdom with warmth, he seemed almost saintly. At 47, he had spent nearly 2 decades shepherding the flock at Grace Baptist Church, where he was more than a preacher. He was a counselor, a marriage mediator, and a father figure. So when the scandal broke, when detectives announced that Pastor Reed was under investigation for murder, the town didn't just gasp. It stopped breathing. To outsiders, Pastor Reed had it all. A loving wife, Susie Reed, who led the church's women's fellowship and ran a small catering business on the side. A teenage daughter, Megan, who sang in the choir, and a spotless reputation, no drinking, no gambling, no hint of impropriety. Susie often said, half-jokingly, "If God made a perfect man, I think I got him." But inside the Reed home, things weren't as holy as they appeared. Susie had noticed changes: late-night hospital visits to counsel the sick, unanswered calls, receipts for gas in towns Daniel supposedly hadn't visited. When she'd ask, he'd smile that patient, pastoral smile and say, "Honey, you worry too much. The Lord's work isn't done by the clock." Still, a woman knows. And Susie began to wonder what kind of work required perfume on his jacket and hotel receipts tucked inside his Bible. On March 14, 2022, a woman named Emily Carter, 31, was reported missing. She was a single mother of 2, a new member of Grace Baptist, and one of Pastor Reed's spiritual counseling cases. Her car was found abandoned by Lake Willow, doors unlocked, purse still on the passenger seat. Detectives noted there was no sign of struggle, but something felt off. Her phone was missing, and her last text message, sent at 8:43 p.m., read, "I'm here. Don't keep me waiting, winky face." When police pulled her phone records, the number she texted was registered to Daniel Reed. At first, no one wanted to believe it. The church deacons rallied around him. "Pastor Reed is being framed," they said. "The devil's at work." But as the days passed, more cracks appeared. Detectives obtained a warrant to search Reed's office at the church. Inside his locked drawer, they found a burner phone, a hotel keycard, and printed photos of Emily, not the kind you'd frame, but the kind you'd hide. When questioned, Pastor Reed maintained his composure. He told detectives he'd been counseling Emily through depression and that the devil twisted something pure into something ugly, but the detectives weren't buying it. The burner phone contained hundreds of messages between him and Emily. They'd been in an affair for nearly a year. One message from Emily, sent a week before she disappeared, read, "If you don't tell Susie, I will." Another from Reed, "Don't threaten me. You don't know what I'm capable of." That was the message prosecutors would later call the confession before the act. When the news reached Susie, she refused to believe it. She told reporters, "My husband is a man of God. He's helped people nobody else would touch." But alone, she began to question everything. The lies, the nights alone, the missing money from their joint account. She'd seen Emily before, a bright, fragile woman who once baked cookies for the church nursery. And she remembered how Daniel's eyes followed her a little too long during choir practice. One night, unable to sleep, Susie went into Daniel's study. In the bottom drawer, beneath a stack of sermon notes, she found a small flash drive labeled Sermons 2022. But when she plugged it into her laptop, the files weren't sermons, they were videos. Recordings of Daniel and Emily, together, in hotel rooms. The woman screamed and cried. But what chilled her most wasn't the betrayal. It was what she saw in one final video. Emily crying, begging him to stop recording and saying, "You promised this wouldn't ruin us." That video was dated the same night Emily disappeared. Detectives returned to Lake Willow, armed with new evidence. Divers searched the muddy waters near the old boat dock, and on April 2nd, they found a black duffel bag weighted with bricks. Inside was a cell phone, a women's sweater, and a silver cross necklace engraved with the initials EC. DNA confirmed it belonged to Emily Carter. Under pressure, Pastor Reed's calm facade finally cracked. In an interrogation video later shown in court, he whispered, "It was an accident. She said she was going to destroy my life. I just lost control." He claimed Emily fell and hit her head during an argument, and he panicked, dumped the body, destroyed evidence. But the autopsy revealed bruising around her neck, manual strangulation. It wasn't an accident. The trial of Daniel Reed became a media circus. Inside the courtroom, Susie sat in the front row every day, torn between love and rage. When the prosecutor displayed the final messages between her husband and Emily, Susie sobbed quietly, her faith unraveling one truth at a time. The most shocking revelation came when the prosecutor showed financial records. Pastor Reed had been transferring church donations into a private account, using the funds for hotel stays, jewelry, and ministry trips that never existed. He'd been living a double life, holy by day, sinful by night. And when that life began to collapse, he'd chosen murder over confession. On September 9th, 2023, Pastor Daniel Reed was convicted of first-degree murder, obstruction of justice, and embezzlement. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. In his final statement, he turned to the courtroom and said, "I lost myself trying to be what everyone needed me to be. The man of God, the perfect husband, the savior. I was none of those things." Susie divorced him shortly after. She left Millstone, sold their home, and later spoke at domestic abuse awareness events, using a new name. Grace Baptist Church closed its doors 6 months after the trial. Today, the old sign still hangs out front, faded and rusted. It reads, "Grace redeems all," but in Millstone, not everyone believes that anymore. 2 years later, Susie gave an interview for a podcast. Her voice was calm but weighted with pain. "I used to think evil had a look," she said, "like darkness in someone's eyes. But now I know, evil can look like a man who holds your hand while praying and tells you he loves you every night." She paused, then added, "Daniel didn't just kill Emily. He killed the person I was before that night. And maybe that's the cruelest thing about monsters. They don't show their teeth until you're already too close to see."